is very difficult to put kids to sleep, and the best way to put them to sleep is reading them bedtime stories. This should be our routine, and I make it a point that I read a story to my kids every day at night. It keeps them in a happy place and they sleep peacefully. So today I'm going to read one story, bedtime story from a book that I have. It is called Children's Bedtime Treasury. It is one of the good books from my kids' books collections. Uh, so look, this book is written by Derek Hall, Alison Morris, and Louisa Somerville. And first story in this collection of bedtime stories is Mrs. Mouse's Holiday. Let's go inside it. Mrs. Mouse was very excited. All year she had been so busy. First, there had been nuts and berries to gather in readiness for winter. Then she had needed to give her little house a big spring clean to make it nice and fresh. Now, as the warm sun shone down on the trees and flowers of her woodland home, she had promised herself a well deserved holiday. But getting ready for holidays seemed to make one busier than ever. There was so much to do. First, she took out her little case, opened it, and placed it carefully on her neatly made bed. Then she rushed to her cupboard and selected some fine holiday dresses. Back to her case, she scuttled and placed them in. Now she chose several pairs of shoes, a nice pair of sandals for walking along the front end, a pair of smart shoes for shopping in, an even smarter pair for going to dinner in, and another pair just in case. I'll need a couple of sun hats. She thought to herself, and so into the case they went as well. These were followed by a coat, some gloves, and a scarf just in case the breeze got up and it became cold. Then, in case it became very sunny, invent some sunglasses, some sunscreen, and a sunshade. But oh dear, there were so many things in the case that it refused to shut. She tried sitting on it and pouncing on it, but still it stubbornly would not close. So out from the case came all the things that she had just put in, and Mrs. Mouse scurried to the cupboard again and chose an even bigger case. This time they all fitted perfectly, and she shut the case with a big sigh of relief. Now she was ready to go to the seaside for her holiday. She sat on the train with the case on the rack above her head, munching her hazelnut sandwiches and looking eagerly out of the window, hoping to see the sea. Finally, as the train shoved around the bend, there it was, a great deep blue sea shimmering in the sun, with white gulls soaring over the cliffs and headlands. I am really looking forward to a nice, quiet rest, she said to herself. Our guest house was very comfortable and so close to the sea that she could smell the clean, salty air whenever she opened her window. This is the life, she thought, nice and peaceful. After she had put her clothes away, she put on her little swimming costume and her sun hat and packed her beach bag. Now she was ready for some peaceful sunbathing. At the beach, she found herself a quiet spot, closed her eyes, and was soon fast asleep. But not for long. A family of wolves had arrived on the beach, and they weren't trying to have a quiet time at all. The youngsters in the family yelled at the top of their voices, splashed water everywhere, and sent their beach ball tumbling all over Mrs. Mouse's neatly laid out beach towel. Just as Mrs. Mouse thought that it couldn't get any noisier, along came a crowd of ferrets. Now, if you ever sat on a beach next to a crowd of ferrets, you will know what it's like. The noisy shouting and singing made Mrs. Mouse's head buzz. Mrs. Mouse couldn't stand it in a moment longer. She was just wondering where she might find some peace and quiet when she spotted a rock just a little way out. If I swim out to that rock, she thought, I will surely have some peace and quiet there. So she gathered up all her belongings and swam over to the rock. It was a bit lumpy, but at least it was quiet. Soon she was fast asleep again. Just then, the rock started to move slowly out to the sea. It wasn't really a rock at all, you see, but a turtle which had been dozing near the surface. Off into the sunset it went, with Mrs. Mouse dozing on its back, quite unaware of what was happening. Eventually, the turtle came to a deserted island. At that moment, Mrs. Mouse woke up. You can see in the illustrations, she woke up. She looked at the empty beach and, without even knowing she had been sleeping on a turtle, she jumped off and swam to the shore, thinking it was the beach that she had just left. Just then, the turtle swam off, and Mrs. Mouse suddenly realized what had happened. For a moment, she was horrified, but then she looked at the quiet, palm fringed beach with no one about but herself and thought of the noisy beach she had just left. Well, perhaps isn't a bad place to spend a quiet holiday after all, she thought. And that's just what she did. Day after day, she lazed on her own private beach with no one to disturb her. There were plenty of coconuts and fruits to eat, and she wanted for nothing. She even made herself a cozy bed for palm leaves. Eventually, though, she started to miss her own little house in the woods and decided it was time to get back home. First, she took half a coconut and nibbled around to tasty inside. That will make a fine boat to sit in, she said. Next, she found a palm leaf and stuck it in the bottom of the shell. She took her little boat to the water's edge, and as the wind caught her palm leaf sail, off she floated back to the boarding house to get her belongings. As she sailed back, she thought, "This is the quietest holiday I have ever had. I may come back here next year." So that was the one of the bedtime stories for today. Hope to see you next time with the next story, maybe tomorrow or day after, whenever I get time. Hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and listening. Keep reading, keep smiling, take care, stay at home.